this is what makes me laugh too, because all the people who claim that Bethesda only has loading screens in all of their games because of the creation engine, this game doesn't use the creation engine, and it still has a bunch of loading screens. That shows you how literally little those people know about game development.
But Bethesda only uses loading screens in their games because they use a shitty thing called the creation engine, and it's a shitty engine, and they should move to a different engine.
This is a different engine, and it still has all the same loading screens, because that's how they develop games. That's how they build their games.
The focus line. Damn you.
I know exactly. This is Hero Engine. Has nothing to do with Creation Engine, and it still does the exact same thing with loading screens.
Dumb mortal. Let's not waste time, shall we?
That's what makes me laugh, Allie, because it just shows you that those people don't have any
I
clue
see
what
you
they're
have the
talking
form.
about.
Competently done. Impressive, even. Now, for the staff. When last we spoke, my lord recalled the discomfort of desert sand. I believe it lies somewhere within Hammerfell. and the
Hero
dry
Engine
and
is the
decayed
same. I think that's the
hands
same
of
one Star
Prince
Wars Republic
Malil.
uses too, if I'm not mistaken.
Prince Malil Alakir, the Sith of Yokuda, a formidable warrior in his day. That was over 1,000 years ago, but still.
But those are the kind of things that make me chuckle. I mean, Star Wars Republic has the same thing. I mean, you can look at any of the games. But I think the thing that just makes me laugh is the people who claim that everything is related to the creation engine. And I've been saying for years, and the engine itself, whatever engine a developer uses, has nothing to do with the way that they choose to build their game, whether it be seamless or zone-based. Like, it's just how they choose to make their game. Do they choose to make it... If you choose to make it seamless, you're going to be cutting corners in other areas to make it seamless, because there's only so much an engine can take in terms of a load.
As I expected.
Unless it's your
Another
mom.
resting place
She
for
can
the
always
dead.
take a big load.
Sheogorath has a sick sense of humor.
But in terms of what a server can do, you choose how many lines of code you can put in, essentially. There is a limit in where you choose to spend your points. Do you do zone-based with lots of physics, or do you do seamless with less physics? There's lots of decisions.
This is the Necropolis, Asakala, the resting place of Prince Malil, also known as the Scythe of Yokuda.
Ah.
The prince's underlings were clever. They crafted magical seals to guard his resting place.
How do I get past them?
Observe the Yokudan statues. Each bears a crystal in the helm and a seal at the base. The essences you see swirling
Ignorance
around
is a
in the
rampant
air
problem
here,
nowadays? Oh,
their energy can be used to unlock
hang
those
on.
keystones.
We'll get to that here in a second. How do I capture them?
Here, I can grant an aura that will allow you to capture the essences as they pass through you.
So you remember that
As
short
many of the small
I made
ones
the
as
other
you
day
can.
for Arc
They
Raiders?
should unlock these scarab seals on the statues nearby. I'll need to consider the other two. This place is incredible. The ancient Red Guards were a noble and accomplished people.
I love coming back to Voss from Indiana Jones: The Great Circle. The easiest thing to manipulate is an insecure male. And I specifically put that YouTube short out there, or that short content, because I knew it would provoke. It is going viral on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And there are so many triggered PvP bros. I'm gonna kill you on sight, Unk. It is just so funny. Ignorance is an issue, so it's so rampant in today's society.
What can I tell you, Adept?
especially from armchair developers. It's just it's such a big deal. Um, the engine thing is always fascinating to me because you can take Godot, Unity, Unreal. I don't even know if you could still buy the Hero engine, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's a version of it out there that you can get. But it all just depends on how the player wants to, or how the developer wants to build their game. Um, so like when we were building our point and click adventure game, my brother and I were sitting down having the discussion in the very beginning of, do we build a point and click game or do we build like an open world zone based game where we have zones? And the discussion we had was, well, it's just if we want to keep our team size to a minimum and we don't want to deal with a lot of optimization issues, which require having a graphics engineer and additional team members who can come on and do lots of optimization to deal with LODs and all of the line of sight things that happen with asset loading and everything else. The easier solution is to just have it be like tiny little, point and click adventure games back in the day would use locations. So as opposed to having a big zone with like 20 POIs, which are open that you can all go into, that creates a problem where you have everything being loaded. So if you can imagine this ahead of us, if there were like 10 different shops lining this street, and each door opened up into a place, and there was no loading screen on the door, and it was just all the assets from every single storefront is being literally loaded. Now there is technology these days with modern game engines that will help with that, but the reality is that somewhere along the line, if you do it that way, if you do an open world environment like that, then somewhere along the line you need an engineer, a graphics programmer, more than likely, along as your asset team as well, creating multiple layers of assets so that you have different LODs for your different distance draws. Someone has to create all that so that you can have this area, and someone has to optimize all of that. Now, if I make this the city street and each shop has its own door, which you then click on and you load into that area, I don't need nearly as many team members to make that game now because I'm not needing to create all of these LOD versions of assets, and I don't need to worry about optimization as much because we're not trying to load thousands of items into this one scene, and we're not worried about how do those assets get loaded in as the player is moving through the zone. Because that creates its own problem. Do I have all the assets loaded in at once and there's just different LODs on them? Or do we load the assets as the player walks so that the assets are only showing up in a radius around the character? So as you walk through the zone, the assets load in and load out as you are moving. There's many different ways to do that. The easiest solution is, here's a door, on the other side of that door is a room, and it has its own assets. And those don't load until you click the door and load into that zone. And that's why point and click adventure games have always been designed that way, because you don't have to worry about optimization of thousands of items when you can have a city street with 10 different shops, 10 different doors. Each door leads to its own thing. And then each individual room can have its own physics, its own objects, and its own everything else. And that's what Elder Scrolls has always done, is it's always had, especially when you deal with the fact that this game has the physics of, I can pick up and like cups and potatoes and tomatoes and fish and books and all of these things, and those can be moved around in the various Elder Scrolls game and Fallout games and Starfield and so on and so forth. You cannot have a big open world with thousands of objects in it if those objects are going to have complex physics and colliders going on. But yes, vegetation is another perfect example. But engine ignorance, that's a good title for this. Short version,
Bethesda only makes loading screens because they use that crappy creation engine.
Joke's on you, bitches, because this is the Hero engine, and they still use lots of loading screens. By the way, so does Star Wars: Old Republic, which also uses the Hero engine.